my flag. All right, here we go. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome to our September 8th Tiverton School Committee meeting. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second, Sally.
I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. Mrs. Farnworth,
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo,
Yes.
Mrs. Black,
Yes.
Mrs. Palish.
Yes.
Oh, I vote yes. So the minutes are approved. And next, I believe on the agenda is the FY21 budget update. Dr. Sanchioni?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Still a lot of unknowns with our budget. We still don't know if and when we're going to receive federal dollars. We still don't know what the state contribution is going to be. As you know, the state budget hasn't passed. We do have one thing that's come into a little clearer picture. That is our bus contract. And I'm going to turn it over to Amy Roderick to give you an update on that.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Roderick?
Thank you. So to the school committee members, late this afternoon, I sent you some information. The first student has not yet signed the contract that we had discussed many weeks ago at this point, and they're particularly holding fast on the point that if we are to shut down due to COVID, they are still hoping to be paid something on those days that we're closed, just in terms of covering their fixed costs. And so I've been going back and forth with their contract manager, and we've sort of, to my understanding, smoothed everything out in exchange.
I think Amy froze.
Yeah.
You did.
You're frozen.
50% of, I'm sorry?
You froze it.
You
Amy.
froze.
Oh,
In
I'm sorry.
exchange for, after smoothing things out.
Okay, smoothing things out. So we've smoothed things out to where in exchange for paying first student 50% of the daily rate for every day that schools are closed due to the pandemic specifically, they would then, instead of holding us to the 5-year contract, they would be willing to amend it to be 3-year contract plus 2 1-year possible, 2 1-year either extensions or amendments thereafter, as opposed to the 5-year that we had originally put out in the bid. And I do realize that I sent you some information late today, playing phone tag with the contract manager all summer, who hasn't been in. She's been on furlough, yada, yada, yada. So I wanted to bring that to your attention and suggest that we go ahead and make that amendment and have the school committee approve it. Whether you approve it this evening or at a subsequent meeting, that's fine. Again, I haven't given you enough time, but I do think that it benefits both parties. And I understand that, we are essentially paying them for not providing bus services. However, other districts, some in the East Bay and others across the state of Rhode Island, are all paying them something from as little as 50%, which is what we're suggested to pay. And there are some other districts who actually got back to me, and they're paying the whole 100% of the daily rate for buses, which includes regular transportation, special education, and for us, sort of the vocational and ancillary routes that we have on a daily basis. So that is just food for thought, and I'm open for questions.
So I'm going to open the floor to questions without a motion, because I don't think that we are prepared to vote on this tonight, unless someone cares to make
Correct.
a motion.
Correct.
I'll give anybody an opportunity to make a motion right now if they would like to. Otherwise, I'm going to open it to questions. Okay, hearing nothing. Mrs. Farnworth.
Actually, yeah, I'm sorry, I do have a question. Amy, do you think you could get back to us before our next meeting with a list of what exactly other districts are doing with regard to this
Sure, I can do that.
discount?
Absolutely.
Right? I think it's important for us to know exactly
Absolutely.
what the other districts are doing.
Okay, certainly.
Dr. Larkin?
I think Diane has the floor right now.
Oh, okay. I thought it was done. Okay, thank you.
She might be. Let me check.
No, the only other thing is I would ask that we delay any action on this because we did just receive this information this afternoon. There's not enough
Yeah.
time.
I brought it up more for discussion, Mrs. Farnworth, than to actually approve it.
Anything else, Diane?
No, I'm good.
Mrs. Black?
Yes. I was just wondering when I was reading not this last fail memo, the one before it, it mentioned that one of the bus companies had some special deal with the state and the other one didn't. I wondered if it was for a student that had made some special deal with the state or not, if you could find that out for us, Amy.
I believe that is first student. So basically what they did was they agreed to pay transportation for the whole year for the statewide special education transportation. And then they parsed out that cost to the municipalities. So it was first student who did that.
Okay, I just wondered if it was for a student. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
That was also in the beginning when we were going back and forth about that one particular clause that they wanted in there. They kept saying, well, RIDE has agreed to pay all
Right.
the transportation costs,
Yes.
for statewide. And I said, well, we are not bound by that just because they agreed to it. And they tried to push that they were, that RIDE was basically setting the standards for all the municipalities to follow suit. And so that's why it's taken some time. We've been going back and forth in addition to schedules, phone calls, and things like that. That's why I'm bringing it to you at this point. I didn't have anything concrete prior to this, but that was one of the starting points where we were at, and we kind of went back and forth for a long time about how they're saying, well, that is the standard that everyone was expected to follow, and I vehemently disagreed with that. And we finally got to talking down the road a little bit and got us to the 50% on specific bus routes, and certainly not late buses and extracurricular activities and things like that, just the bus routes that we would conduct every day if school were in session.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Anything else, Mrs. Black?
No, thank you.
Mrs. Pavo?
Nothing.
Okay. Mrs. Palish?
So I'm going to play a little bit of catch up with this. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on the last bid because I wasn't involved in the discussion. So essentially they're rejecting what we approved because they won't sign it.
I guess you can say that, yes, but we're trying to come up with a language where they will sign it. So it's not completely off the table per se.
So they bid the 5-year with the language, brought it to us, was approved, and now they're saying no.
Correct. Given that time has passed and other districts have added that language, they're holding out effectively.
Not effectively, they are. So I'm not even sure. I was going to ask you to do a 5-year analysis of what we approved versus what it would look like now, making some assumptions like if we did 60 of the 180 at, that would require the 50%. If we did 90 of the 180, but I'm not sure it's going to be even worth the time to put into that type of exercise if they've essentially rejected the one that was approved by the committee.
Anything else, Mrs. Palish?
Would you agree, Amy, that, what's the point of going through that kind of analysis if it's not going to matter because they're not going to hold to the original agreement?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not quite following the type of analysis you're asking for. I initially, when we got the original bid, calculated out whether paying the higher cost in the first year plus CPI for the remaining 4 years versus paying less in the first year and then 3% a year for the remaining 4 years, it came out to just about the same figure. So then, so in terms of that, and I confirmed this with the contract manager, it's effectively, they built it that way, that it's effectively the same money over the 5 years. And then I guess
Because
after
what is the current language say now if we don't use them, we don't pay?
correct.
So I guess what I'm saying is whatever was in the language for the 5 years, I would want to compare that to some sort of analysis of now paying them in year probably 1 and 2 if we did 60 days or out of the 180, or if we did 30 days out of the 180 where we were in pandemic, full distance learning. But what I'm saying is I don't know if it's worth doing that analysis if they have in essence rejected that 5-year bid. And I think what I'm hearing is they will not sign that 5-year bid.
Correct.
Yes, Peter?
Yes, that is true.
Correct.
Okay. So then.
So in the information I provided you, I did give you the per diem.
Yeah, I've only been looking at this for like
at it. So I
10
have
minutes,
done the
so.
per diem both as it is in the 5-year in the 5-year contract as it is, and at the.
But again, that analysis does nothing for me because what you're saying is they're rejecting the 5 years. So this really is us looking at a new bid.
Not a new bid, an amended contract, because we are not
Wow.
going out to bid again.
Well, yeah, right. So the old contract is
that
not,
I'm aware of.
Right. So the old contract is null and void. So it really is sort of looking at this fresh from this is what they're proposing now.
And what I sent to you are the only new proposals as far as that goes.
So if we could then, I guess, I look at a 3-year period then.
Okay. Can you and I talk offline specifically just for the analysis that you want so I can make sure I have all the elements? I'm happy to do that analysis for you.
Well, if no one else wants it, then that's fine. I mean, if Diane and Jerry and Sally and Elaine are okay with just looking at this, then, I'll think about it. I'll think about what I want. Like I said, I've only had it for like 5 minutes, so
I understand.
I'll think about what I want to look for, because like I said, I was a little confused because essentially they've rejected the contract that was approved before, so we're sort of starting over. But I'll think about what I want.
Okay.
All right.
I have a question, Dr. Larkin.
Okay, go ahead.
It's just for Amy. What is the actual date of the end of this current contract?
It was June 30th of 2020.
Okay. I'm just concerned whether or not they're going to think that, the contract is over and they don't want to negotiate any further. Where does that leave us? Just a thought. Thank you.
Unfortunately, they were the only bidder, as was the case for every other bid that they submitted,
Right.
and the same for Ocean State. It leaves us between a rock and a hard place, certainly.
They have us over a barrel.
Again, yes.
Whether
Absolutely.
we agree to something other than what we were hoping for or we don't, they have us over a barrel. We have no choice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So explain to me why this isn't going from a bid that was accepted and voted, that, the elements of which were what they were, to now trying to renegotiate the bid that they made to begin with to make it less advantageous to us, and why that isn't, why they are not bound by their original bid, why we shouldn't be talking to a lawyer about this.
So effectively, the contract manager came back to me and said that their attorneys have said they can't in good faith sign a contract where they're basically going to lose money. And I said, well, give me what you think it is that you would like to amend, and I made the election to bring it to you folks. So I can certainly bring it back to the attorneys and get their opinion on that. But I was hoping we could smooth it out and come to an agreement prior to the opening of school. There was enough else going on, so I made that decision.
No, I understand that. That's not a fault I'm finding with you by any means whatsoever. I'm just sort of trying to understand process here and when we can expect them to live up to their commitments and when we can expect them to not live up to their commitments.
That was exactly, Jerry. That was the point I was trying to get at.
Seems like they are not living up to their commitments.
For any school district,
You know, an
it's not
insurance
just
company.
us.
So an insurance company signs a contract to, you know, pay for every car accident for 500,000 people. If all 500,000 have an accident, sorry, insurance company, you're going out of business. So if a bidder makes a bid in good faith, and we assume it was in good faith, although I'm not sure the assumption is justified, then why do they think that they should renegotiate the terms of that bid once we have actually voted? I believe that the contract may be binding regardless of what their attorneys are saying, that they made a bid that we approved. That's probably binding on them.
Okay. I do know that there was, when they submitted their bid, there was that suggested language of which this element was a component. And as a district, we rejected that. However, there were other districts that initially rejected it and then also renegotiated with them. So my guess is, and this is just a supposition, they haven't said anything, is that they felt that they could do the same with all the districts. That's my supposition.
And to Elaine's point, they feel like they can do that because they have a monopoly, which is really an issue that our General Assemblymen really, really need to deal with in this state.
Yeah, this has to stop.
This has to stop. We have an agreement. We had a 5-year agreement. We locked it in, and now they're coming back and saying, never mind, we got a better deal with other communities. So now we want a better deal with you too. And it's just has to stop. And it's not a criticism of Amy, but we really need people at the Assembly to get involved and start helping with this, because this is just, it's crazy.
Well, the Attorney General, frankly.
I definitely have put it in the ear of the General Assembly members that I know. So it is on their radar. I have talked about it frequently since this started.
Yeah, it hardly seems a coincidence that there are 2 bidders and they only bid on the districts where they've had business, and then they use that, you know, or maybe we should start a bus company. Seems like we could do some business. All right.
Peter, that's your next objective, bus company.
Company on it.
All right. I like Deb, I guess I have to think about this, why we shouldn't really investigate why this is not binding on them, that they can't change the terms of the contract.
Well, I'm going to challenge you to go back though, and I don't think that first student ever agreed to the conditions that our committee put on that contract. Is that correct, Amy? I don't think they ever intended to accept those conditions.
So they, that might be partially true. They haven't said anything specific to me in that regard. I do know that they issued their response to the bid request, to the request for proposals, and then they had an addendum document that basically said suggested language to put in.
I remember that.
Okay, and so then I think, agreed to a couple small phrases, but then basically rejected those clauses that were not advantageous to the district. And when I presented that to you, I sent that copy to them. after your approval, and then it came back with, well, we really want this clause, which is the 50% payment clause in there. So you are correct, they didn't officially agree to it. Whether their intention was to agree to it or not agree to it, I can't speak for them, but they certainly had responded to the bid as it was put out, and then added an additional document with suggested language. So, but since that time, I guess they feel that since RIDE has agreed to pay 100% for the school year for the statewide transportation, my guess is, just inference from the conversations I've had, is that they feel that the precedent has been set by RIDE, and they have gone through their contracts and tried to add it in as a function of that, is what I've pieced together.
I wonder if it makes sense, and I apologize for taking the floor back, Jerry. I wonder if it makes sense for us as a committee to draft a resolution asking the General Assembly to take action on this on a statewide level, not just for Tiverton, but for every district. And once we adopt such a resolution, perhaps share it with the other districts in the state and see if we can get some traction on this. The General Assembly is bound to come back into session someday.
Yeah, maybe we can go through Tim Duffy.
Yeah.
And share it. That's a good idea, Diane.
So, and I guess I'm not clear on sort of, and I'd have to go back and look, and maybe that's, if there's anything that maybe you could provide to us, Amy, it is a kind of blow by blow and what the substantive issues were with each iteration of negotiating with them about this. This still seems to me to be adding components into the contract that were never in the original bid, as far as I recall it.
Again, they were not in the original bid, that's correct. And however, their bid submission did contain an additional document with language that they wanted to add to it. They called it their suggested language document.
Well, I have to go back and look at that language then to see if that somehow, yeah, again. A bid is a bid, so that's the reason why there's all this business about them being sealed, and you put it out to bid and you have to go through this whole process. And once the bid is made, that's binding, I believe, unless, it's rejected. So anyway, all right.
I can certainly reach out to the attorneys, and I can also document for you the issues as you requested.
Okay.
Do we want to spend money on attorneys, or do you want to just see the issues first? Because if, like Diane says, that the addendum was really there and they made that clear, then maybe we don't have. I don't want to spend money on attorneys.
No, I'd like to look back at the documentary evidence that we have right now to understand exactly how we keep on getting to this place of, oh yeah, we want this, and we're not giving you anything.
Yeah, like, oh, your 10% increase wasn't high enough. Let's make it 12.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Along those same lines, how many students, what have we done any kind of assessment of what savings there are for students who have opted out of hybrid and doing just distance learning, students that have now been designated walkers, and students that have opted out of busing altogether?
I don't think there were savings, were there? It was that just allowed us to run buses.
Okay.
That's correct.
Well, that's an analysis.
Because of the capacity limit, Dr. Larkin, because of the capacity limits of 35, correct me, Dr. Sanquioni, so the buses are effectively a little less than half full due to social distancing regulations. So the cost per bus per day is whether one child rides the bus or if it's 77 or 83, depending on the capacity.
Okay.
So if we have minus COVID, if we had a bus, one route where 3 kids rode the bus to the middle school, let's say, we would still pay the full amount for the bus for that one day.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything else from any other committee members on this issue? Are there any questions from the public, Mrs. Delcourt?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
And anything from any of our administrators? Okay, so we are still on budget. Dr. Sanquioni, anything else on the 2021 budget?
No, we're just, as you heard me open, we're still on a holding pattern to find out what the state budget is and what federal dollars we may be receiving. We just haven't got any updated information on those two things.
Okay. Any
As
other?
of right now, the budget committee or the town is recommended to level fund us at maintenance of effort.
Yep. Okay.
And the only other additional funds are the corona relief funds, which have been in process and are continue to be in process.
I believe right now the financial town referendum is the 26th. Do I have that right?
And there's only one budget, so that is the budget.
That's the budget.
Right.
And the hearing is this week, I think on Thursday, if anyone's interested in.
Oh.
In.
Yeah, the public hearing.
Huh. Is that going to be, that's totally off my radar. Is that going
It's
to be?
in line with the calendar.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, that I understand. It's not the calendar I'm finding fault with. It's my biological clock, I guess. I don't know. Is it Zoom or in the high school or what?
It's Zoom.
All right. We should have representation there. We never received any notification to be there, actually. So let me put it that way.
And there's supposed to be someone there from each body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, what's the point?
I know.
Well,
There's one budget.
understood. We're past the point for any petitioner, right?
Yes.
I don't know. That happened about, 7 or 8 years ago. There was only one budget and we still had it. And I remember people were irate that when they found out that there was only one budget, somebody was irate. I forget who it was. At any rate, all right. It's at 7.
I believe so.
All right.
It's posted.
Does anybody, so I can be at that. Does anybody else want to join me or anybody else want to take it on all together? I do believe we should have some sort of representation.
I was planning to listen in. If you want me to join you, I'll be happy.
All right.
Dr. Larkin, I can help as well if you'd like.
Okay. And that's an event of the budget committee or the town council?
Town council.
So I have to touch base with Trish to get us access. Okay.
We'll get that link for you, Dr. Larkin, and get it out tomorrow.
All right. Thank you. All right. All right. So then we're up to 4B reopening plan. Dr. Sanquioni.
Great, thank you, Dr. Larkin. Just to update the committee, although we had our staff in 2 weeks ago for some PD, today was traditionally our opening day. And I want to share with you that it was a spectacular day. Our principals had worked hard all summer and their schools were in great shape and they had some effective staff meetings. But we started off with a greeting by Dr. Larkin at Fort Barton that was simulcast to all 5 of our schools. It was exceptionally well received. And then we moved into the recognition of our Teacher of the Year. And I'm pleased to announce publicly that award went to Megan McFarland, a 3rd grade teacher at Fort Barton, who's so well deserving to receive that award. And it was an honor for her and her family was there. It was a pleasure to see. So it was a great start to the school year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations to Megan.
Yes. Very nice.
A very nice ceremony. Yep.
And if I continue with the reopening, I want to re-show a slide that I've showed in the past. I think it's worthwhile so that all parents are crystal clear about what next Monday is going to look like. And so if you work with me here, and I believe you can all see that. Yes? Okay, and so this is the model. It's not a recommendation anymore. School committee has endorsed this. So I just want to remind our parent committee, our community, and our students about what next Monday is going to look like. So at our elementary schools, if you're in first grade or kindergarten, you're expected to attend school. Every one of our first graders, every one of our kindergarten students should be in school. If you're in grades 2 through 4, you should have been notified at this point by your principal that in fact, if you're in the alphabet A through L, you will be in school next week, starting on Monday for that entire week. And then the week after, you'll be home and distance learning. And then if your alphabet or your last name begins with M through Z, you'll be in school during that second week. So our teachers are prepared to deliver instruction, whether you're home or in school. We're setting up the technology, have been setting up the technology to do that. We're confident it's going to be a really effective model. So I just want to make sure parents are crystal clear on that, depending on what grade your child is in. And then secondly, what's the first letter of your last name will depend on what model you'll be experiencing during the first week. At the middle school, all 5th grade students are expected to be in. However, in grades 6 through 8, it's a replica of the elementary school. It's a hybrid. And again, it's A through L next week, so starting on the 14th, and then M through Z 2 weeks from now. However, again, point I want to make, if your last name begins with M through Z, it's not a week off. Like you're logging in, you're in school, you're going to participate in every class, every teacher's going to welcome you in through Google Meet and provide you instruction and the work just like you were in school. And at the high school, it's grade 9. If you are in grade 9, all 9th graders are expected to be in school next Monday. And again, the hybrid model is being used grades 10 through 12. Again, if your last name begins with A through L, you're expected to be in school. And if your last name begins with M through Z, you're expected to log in at home and participate in the lessons and do all the assignments and continue to receive your education, because the following week you will be in school. So want to be clear on this. Again, if parents needed us to adjust any students who are, for example, in the middle school or at the high school, we've been taking those requests. Usually it goes by last name, but if some students have different last names, we've been making those adjustments and still happy to do so. And just to wrap this up, there are specific special education classes that are in full in-person instruction, and you can see the 8 classes listed here. So if you have a son or daughter that are in any one of these classes, you can expect your child to be in school starting next Monday and to be in school every day. So I know our principals, our secretaries have been answering these questions all week at their schools. We want to continue to clarify this, and we are looking forward to welcoming those students back in on Monday. So I will stop the share there and say to you that we are ready with our cleaning protocols, our safety protocols, our education system is ready to run next Monday. Again, we had great staff meetings today, getting our staff ready for this. The technology is all geared up, ready to roll. So we're confident. We're confident that we can deliver a high quality education. So I'll pause there and see if you have any questions.
Dr. Sanquioni, this is Mr. Cabral. At Ranger School, there are some exceptions to the A through L. So there have been parents that have requested because of carpooling. There's also been parents that have requested, the A sessions versus the B session. So everyone's been notified. The majority of the students are A through L, but there are some exceptions. Those parents have already been notified, and those exceptions have been made.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Cabral. And I would say that has been in place at all 5 of our schools. So again, I appreciate the principals making those adjustments to best suit our community and the needs of our parents.
Okay, thank you. And, again, I can't reiterate enough how appreciative I think we all are of the hard work that it's been being done by our custodial staff, our other support staff, our teachers, our administrators, and frankly, our parents who are, I think, a little bit anxious, some of them anyway, to have their kids go back to school. So I just heard that, I saw it on Facebook or something. So I'm going to open the floor to questions.
Dr. Larkin, before you go there, one other part of this update is we did get notification from Rhode Island Interscholastic Sports of what sports will look like in the fall. And so let me turn that over to our high school principal, let you know exactly what's going to take place in the fall.
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone. So we heard last Friday that the governor and the Rhode Island Interscholastic League came to agreement on opening all fall sports except volleyball and football. So again, that's all fall sports except volleyball and football. So cross country, boys and girls soccer, field hockey would all be running. They are delaying the start. So next week is still a summer mode week in that the official practices for fall sports will begin the week of September 21st. We are currently, just as a school, coordinating with other schools around safety protocols and procedures for practices and the games, and also just scheduling of the games in terms of that coordination. So there'll be more updates over the next week on those details.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Craven, anything about the middle school sports?
Yeah, middle school sports have been canceled for the year or
Okay.
postponed.
All right, so maybe in the spring, but who knows?
Who knows?
Got it. Okay. So I'm going to open up the floor to questions from the committee. Mrs. Pavo?
I have nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Black?
No, thank you.
Mrs. Palish? And Mrs. Farnworth?
I never miss an opportunity to ask a question. Can I ask that for our next meeting, Mr. Ashley, if you could perhaps update us even more on what the sports are going to look like, as far as if there are any major changes to the sports themselves for safety reasons. I know in Massachusetts, soccer in particular, from what I've been reading, is not like your father's soccer game, if you will. Just kind of interested in knowing how that's going to happen in Rhode Island, if it's going to be similar, and also if there are going to be any rules with regard to spectators in any of the sports. So if you don't mind. Also, I was wondering, Dr. Sanquioni, if there would be any appetite from the administration or from the committee for perhaps a quick walkthrough of one of the schools to see, with our own eyes, what our students and what our faculty and staff are going, what these buildings are going to be like when school starts. I don't know if there's any availability to do that before the kids come back.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we are in the next 3 days. Students are not there, our staff is, and I'm sure our administrative team would love to give any one of you or a group of you a tour of any building you'd like to see. You'll see a lot of modifications. The signage is going up over the next 3 days. Thank you, Ms. Delcourt. We've got the sneeze guards installed. You can see the PPE equipment. You can see the isolation rooms and many other things that I'm not just mentioning right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Just let us know, whatever works for you over the next 3 days.
Okay.
Okay, great. And then once I know I'm not going to be able to do anything because of work, but unless you want to do it at like 9 o'clock at night, which I won't ask you to. However, yeah, once you've set those times, just let everybody know. Yeah, okay. I was thinking.
Does it have to be the same time, or can we just
No, we're there every day, so I can see all the.
So
principals
someone
out.
might, if you're close,
Yeah.
you might want to do Ranger. Someone that's close might want to do Fort Bart. I mean, so just
Okay.
sort of reach out to the administrator.
Yeah, I would just say call the principal and see if
Right.
there's a time that you
Okay.
could do it. I thought about, it'd be nice if we could do that for parents, but I think the numbers would get us in trouble pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if it would have been sooner, but not with just a week to go. No, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Okay. So we've gone through the committee. Any questions from our administrators or any other comments from our administrators?
Back to that topic though, just for a second, Jerry. I don't know, have we done any kind of video walkthrough that they could see, or have they sort of really been told via Zoom, like they might be all set?
Well, Peter's been doing the weekly conferences. I don't know, Peter, do you have anything else there?
So you're speaking regarding parents? So just
yeah, is there any kind of video so they could sort of, here's, I'm walking through, I'm your child, here's what they're going to see? Or
let me turn this over to Mr. Cabral or Amy Donnelly Roach, because at the elementary level, they are welcoming the students in. I think it's Thursday. So there is an opportunity for students to tour the school to get them acclimated and ready to go. And as far as the parents go, we haven't created a video yet, but that's.
And I'm not suggesting that you do. You've plenty to do in the next 3 days. I just didn't know if there was something out there.
Yeah, let these principals talk to you a little bit about the student visitation, because I think that's been a key factor that they put in place.
So Thursday, we're going to have a meet and greet Thursday and Friday. Group A is coming on Thursday from 9 to 9:30. Group B is coming on Friday from 9 to 9:30. Correspondence has already gone out to parents. Parents that are dropping off the students at Ranger will go to the back of the building. Parents that the students would be riding the bus will be dropping those students off in the front of the building. And it's only students allowed in the building. If parents have any questions, they're emailing us, or the teachers are reaching out to the parents. So there's only students allowed in the building so we can maintain the numbers.
And I would add, at Fort Barton, it's very similar. However, our walkthroughs are tomorrow and Thursday due to some other commitments we had already made. So students assigned to Group A who are beginning on the 14th face-to-face will be invited in tomorrow. And students who are distance learning or participating remotely the first week are being invited in on Thursday, 9 to 9:30, same time. Same expectations in terms of parents being able to wait outside and certainly receive the materials that their students will need, especially if they're in the B group or participating through distance learning.
And we may actually have some video footage. I don't know how we're going to use. Ms. Delcourt, talk to me about the footage you've been taking, because I think there was an intention to do some of that.
So I think that everybody can agree each school has its own personality. The high school principal, Mr. Ashley, asked some of his seniors to come together, and they did we filmed a video that's coming out shortly from their perspective of what school is going to look like. From there, Mrs. Craven and Mr. Campion filmed this past Friday, just some need to knows. We walked throughout the entire building. We basically covered 7 different areas. For example, how to arrive, how to leave, bathrooms, classrooms, walkways. I know I'm forgetting a few more, but most importantly, each school did a little bit of a different take. Ms. Wardell and her staff today filmed a video called What Do You Look Like Under Your Mask? So all of those are coming out shortly. They'll be out before the start of school.
Oh, that's perfect. That's exactly the kind of thing I was talking about, Julie. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any questions from the public, Mrs. Delcourt?
Throughout this time, Dr. Larkin.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to move on to item 5A, unless there's other questions or things that people want to raise. Am I on the wrong agenda? I am. Somehow I got back to August 12th agenda. Can someone tell me what's next on the agenda? How did that happen?
Next is 5A, new business, and there's none.
Okay. Well,
Then we move to executive session.
all right.
Can you read the
Yes,
RIGL, Diane?
Sure. So I'd like to make a motion that we move to executive session under RIGL 42-46-582, legal advice litigation, school administrator contracts, and that we move into executive session under RIGL 42-46-582, legal advice litigation, collective bargaining, NEA Tiverton.
Second.
I'll do a roll call vote. Mrs. Pavo,
Yes.
Mrs. Black,
Yes.
Mrs. Palish,
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth.
Yes.
I vote yes.